The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Great. Hello, everybody. I would like to welcome you to our webinar, Parent Empowerment. Our webinar, kicking off the school year in a healthy way, how families and schools can work together. My name is Allison, and I'm the Policy Analyst at Healthy Schools Campaign, which is the organization that is hosting today's webinar. We'll tell you a little bit more about Healthy Schools Campaign in a couple of minutes, but we just wanted to walk through a few of the logistics for today's webinar. So today's webinar is going to run for about an hour, and we are going to post a recording of the webinar online. And so after the webinar finishes, we'll be taking the presenter slides and that recording, putting it on our website, and by the end of the week you should receive an email with a link to the webinar. And also CPDUs will be available through participating in this webinar. And finally, we have a very short survey at the end of the webinar, which will take you less than a minute to complete. And so if you could take a few moments to do that, that would be wonderful. It helps us improve our programming for future webinars. Also, we're going to save 15 minutes at the end of the webinar for a question and answer session. So throughout the webinar, you have a question box on your control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. And you can just go ahead, type in your questions at any point, and we'll be saving all those questions. And then during the last 15 minutes, we'll be going through all of them and asking our presenters to respond to them. We have a wonderful lineup of speakers today. We have Rosa Ramirez-Richter from Healthy Schools Campaign, Jamie Tully from Chicago Public Schools, Allison Slade from Namaste Charter School, and Michael Heidkamp from Green Elementary. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my colleague, Rosa Ramirez-Richter, who is the Wellness and Education Program Manager at Healthy Schools Campaign. And in that role, Rosa works with a wide range of school leaders, community members, nonprofits, public agencies, foundations, and community and faith-based organizations. And through all this work, she helps schools create healthy environments where wellness, healthy eating, physical activity, and nutrition education are priorities. And Rosa holds a Master's of Science degree in Community Development from University of California, Davis, and a Bachelor's in Public Policy and Sociology from DePaul. So Rosa, I will pass it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. As Alex said, my name is Rosa. And first, I want to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. So Healthy Schools Campaign is a 10-year-old nonprofit organization, and we've been around in Chicago for a long time. And most of our work has focused on improving the food and fitness environment of large urban school districts. So a lot of our work does scale up nationally, but in Chicago, we have worked to really improve the air quality of schools and the environmental health of our students. And then we also look at what the student experience is inside the school building. So we work to improve school food, raise the nutrition standards of the school meals that many of our students eat every day, and also advocate for more physical activity during the school day, such as recess, physical education, and also complementing that experience in the classroom by increasing opportunities for nutrition ed. So that's a little bit about us, and of course we run our Fit to Learn professional development for teachers and principals. But I'll share a little bit more information of how you can connect with us at the end of my presentation. To get started, of course, as our organizational name, Healthy Schools Campaign, we give a great importance to the school environment. Many of our students are spending 7+ hours inside the school building, and we know this is a powerful place to shape students' lifelong habits and behaviors. And, research documents what you already know. You as educators already know that healthy, active, well-nourished students are better prepared to learn. And so from the air students breathe to the food they eat to the opportunities they have to be active, the school environment really does shape their health and learning for a lifetime. Next slide. So let's take a moment to read this really impressive statement. You know, it says, children today are not expected to live as long as their parents, reversing a trend that has lasted for at least the last 100 years. So there's this great urgency for schools to step up to the plate to promote healthier lifestyles among students. And it's not only because we know that healthier students make for better learners, and thus we can positively impact academic achievement, but it's because of the simple and horrifying thought that, you know, children are expected to live less years than their parents. We've always grown up with this idea that we will do better than our parents, get better educations, get better jobs. So it's a really disturbing trend that this generation of children are expected to live less years. Next slide. And so when we start looking at Chicago Public Schools and in our own community, we know that these obesity rates are tremendously much higher than the national average and the state average. And so 43% of Chicago students are considered to be overweight or obese. This has just been recently released data from the Chicago Department of Public Health. And so at its core, the childhood obesity epidemic, you know, it's really caused by an imbalance in the amount of energy our children take in through food and drinks and the amount of energy they expend through normal growth, physical activity, and daily living. So we as a society, we have many different views on the causes and solutions of problems, but there are two prevalent different views that can be summarized. There are those who believe that poor eating habits, a lack of physical activity is a result of poor parenting, and that personal responsibility is the solution. And then there are those who view that it's really a combination of public policy and trends that have led to the lack of access to healthy food and opportunities for physical activity. And this is the cause of the problem, and the solution is to change policies and institutions to become healthier. So whatever your views are about the causes and solutions of childhood obesity, there's a strong consensus on a number of things. It's dramatically increased over the years. Nearly 1 in 3 children in America are overweight or obese, and as you can see on the screen, that's families living in low-income communities, especially African American and Latino neighborhoods. Obesity rates are significantly higher. Another thing that we know is that childhood obesity leads to a frightening health consequences such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, asthma, sleep apnea, and the list goes on and on. But the good news of this is that we're not really waiting for a cure to solve childhood obesity. We know we can do something about it. We know that if we make simple and big changes in our school environment and the way we live our individual lifestyles, we can affect change. And so really that's the preface for this webinar. And this is just a slide to cover why our theory of change, our model of change. So school wellness is important because we know that students who are healthy learn better. You know, there's tons of research on that. And we know that schools are a huge place to affect that change. They spend 7+ hours in a school building. And, you know, but to achieve these goals, and if we all agree that this is important, then we must equip our schools to become healthier places. And we can do this in big and small, direct and indirect ways. Of course, having the schools teach a comprehensive health education class is great. You know, offering early detection screenings is very important to identify, you know, children's health conditions that impede learning, such as hearing and vision problems. But I want to stress that equally important is the culture of the school and the simple routine things that we do that we might not give a second thought to really does impact a student's lifestyles or what they perceive to be healthy. So simple or, you know, things that we might not give a second thought to is the way that we are raising funds for our school, celebrating birthdays and special occasions, how staff are modeling or not modeling active and healthy lifestyles. But we know that culture is so difficult to change, and it takes a lot of time and dedication. And so we know there are key strategies to help schools make these changes, and that's what we're doing here today, really starting a conversation about this and asking for help and reaching out to others that are starting this path to creating a healthier school environment. And we know that families and communities are a key important role to creating this change at the school level. So why parent engagement? Well, studies have shown that students that have parents engaged, they have higher grades and test scores. Their students are just performing a lot better socially and academically in the school setting. And it also impacts the students' health. Students are less likely to smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, become pregnant, be physically inactive, and be emotionally distressed. Next slide. And I just want to take a moment that we may think that parents do not necessarily care about health and wellness given the competing priorities in our city, but parents of Chicago public students are speaking up about their children's right to a healthy school environment. Here's a photo of our Parent Leadership Institute. It's a group of about 50 parents that have gone through an intense training, and they've been really key to advocating for mandatory daily recess, which was instituted last year, for breakfast in the classroom, and for stronger district-wide policies that really help us focus on these issues. Parents have been key in helping their schools become Healthy School Certified, which Jamie Tully will speak a little bit about a little bit later, and have been pivotal in getting their schools to go for the gold and meet the Healthier U.S. School Challenge, which is a key element of First Lady Michelle Obama's effort. So parents do care about these issues, and they are advocating for these policies and programs. And so part of today is to help us focus on this issue before school starts. So Healthy Schools campaign supports schools in a variety of ways. We do provide parent support, and so if you have parents you feel are really stepping up to the plate and would like them to get more education, more awareness of these issues, we do provide a parent leadership training program. We also do professional development for teachers and principals called Fit to Learn. And of course, we are always working on improving policies and practices that can impact the school environment. So please reach out to us, learn more at healthyschoolscampaign.org. My contact information is on the screen, so feel free to reach out. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. The next series of speakers are great, and I hope you guys are motivated to create a healthier school environment.
Great. Thank you so much, Rosa, for providing that wonderful introduction and setting the context for what we're going to be speaking about today. So our next speaker is Jamie Tully from Chicago Public Schools. But before Jamie gets started, I want to ask a quick poll question of the audience. We want to know who's out there. So please let us know if you are a parent, if you're a principal, teacher, if you're a nonprofit advocate, or if you fall into another category. While you're answering that, I'm going to intro Jamie. Jamie is the school wellness specialist at Chicago Public Schools. In this capacity, Jamie coordinates the implementation of LEARNWELL at the district level, and internal evaluation and external research. Jamie has held several positions in the education field, including teaching at Gage Park High School and working in Boston Public Schools Health and Wellness Department. She obtained her bachelor's from Loyola University Chicago and a master's in public health in epidemiology and biostatistics, and a master's of science from Tufts University. So Jamie, we are going to turn it over to you in 1 second, but in the meantime, we want to share the results of the poll with everybody. So it looks like most people on are teachers, so about 3/4 of the participants are teachers, and then we have some parents and some people that fall into that other category. So Jamie, we are going to turn it over to you now.
Great. Well, I'm really excited to talk to you all about a new initiative that our office is launching this school year called LEARNWELL. So you may have heard of the 2 new policies that the board passed in October and November of 2012, the Healthy Snacks and Beverage Policy and the Local School Wellness Policy. These 2 policies were really modeled off of the Healthier U.S. School Challenge, which Rosa referenced earlier. It's Michelle Obama's initiative for healthy schools. And you can go to the next slide. Oh, sorry. So I thought that was the progress report. But on each school's progress report, there is an indicator for the Healthier U.S. School Challenge, and that's the green apple. There it is, that identifies schools as Healthy Schools Certified. So basically, if schools are meeting our policies, then they are prepared to fill out the Healthier U.S. School Challenge application and become Healthy Schools Certified so that you can get the green apple on the public progress report, which parents and the community can reference. So recognizing that these policies are really a matter of a culture shift or a mindset change, our office has launched a new initiative called LEARNWELL. You could go to the next slide. And LEARNWELL is basically an initiative that helps support schools in aligning with our 2 new policies. And it really encompasses both all the criteria in our policies as well as the work that the Wellness Department does. So I'm gonna go through each of the 11 criteria for LEARNWELL and just highlight some of the major requirements, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how families and communities can really get involved in helping schools with these. You can go on to the next slide. Thanks. All right, so lead well. That is that every school is required to have a wellness champion who is nominated by the principal and convenes a wellness team. That wellness team should report to the local school council at least quarterly. The next one is eat well, so integrating nutrition education into the school day throughout the curriculum. And dine well really talks about the food school environment and making sure that those foods that are sold outside of the school lunch and breakfast program meet certain nutrition requirements that are outlined in the Healthy Snack and Beverage Policy. We also ask schools to move well or maximize that moderate to vigorous physical activity within physical education and really work towards improving the quality of PE. And then play well. I'm sure all of you are aware of the 20-minute requirement of recess per day. We also recommend that recess is offered before lunch, mainly because if recess is before lunch, it increases lunch participation, and it does give kids kind of a breather between recess and going back into the classroom, so it gives them a little bit of an easier transition. And focus well, so integrating physical activity throughout the school day in addition to recess and physical education. As Rosa mentioned, many of our students are spending 7 or more hours of their day at school, so making sure to encourage teachers to really integrate the physical activity into lesson plans. And next slide. And then celebrate and fundraise well. So every school is required to submit a healthy celebrations and fundraising plan. Those plans will be submitted to our office at Student Wellness. And these plans really should focus on non-food fundraisers and healthier celebrations throughout the school year. And reward well, so reinforcing good behavior with these non-food rewards, and then this also prohibits withholding physical activity as a punishment. So if a child is misbehaving in math class, they should not be withheld from physical education class or recess. And then engage well, so this is really encouraging all schools to engage students and parents in wellness initiatives at the school. Healthy Schools campaign has been a really key partner in helping with us in engaging parents. They will also be putting together some materials to help schools identify ways to engage parents within the wellness initiatives at the school. And finally, Start Well. So Start Well really aligns all of the early childhood programming to what we have going on around wellness in the K through 12 grades. You can move to the next slide. So based on all that, I'm just going to talk a little bit, highlight some ideas for involving families within wellness. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is promoting healthy celebrations, fundraisers, and rewards. So as I mentioned, the policy does require schools to create and adopt their own healthy celebrations and fundraising plan. It also requires that teachers and school staff use positive incentives instead of food to reward students. So a few things that you can do to engage school stakeholders, in particular families, is setting realistic expectations for your school. So when you're considering putting together a celebrations and fundraising plan, talk to the community and consider what's important to keep and what can you get rid of as far as unhealthy fundraisers or celebrations go. So that's a really key point, is involving parents and guardians in actually writing the healthy celebrations and fundraising plan, because this will definitely help with buy-in. And then also making sure to inform parents about the changes, and communicating the importance of this plan is really essential. Another opportunity to involve parents and guardians is around nutrition education. So as I mentioned, all students K through 8, or all schools K through 8 must integrate nutrition education as a systematic unit of instruction. This nutrition education should go through multiple channels, including communications with the families. It should be communicated in the classrooms, and then as well as in the dining center. So some ideas for involving parents in nutrition education include sending home a health and wellness newsletter, or maybe having a corner in your school newsletter about health and wellness. And then maybe even hosting a nutrition education parent night to give them some ideas for at home. You could also even incorporate this into the the report card pickup, for example, and just have a table with information and talk to parents about nutrition education. Next slide. Thanks. Promoting PE and physical activity. So as I mentioned, we're really working on maximizing the amount of PE time spent in moderate to vigorous physical activity. So one way that we have thought about including parents and families in promoting physical education and physical activity is really to work on increasing the awareness among families about the benefits of physical activity and physical education for both themselves and the students. So again, you could include this in a health and wellness newsletter, or a health and wellness corner of your school's newsletter. Integrate physical activity into parent nights. We really like to integrate physical activity into all of our presentations as a quick brain break. So you could highlight that and show parents what students are doing during the school day. And then maybe even host a physical activity event to raise awareness of physical activity's benefits. So for example, a 5K or a walkathon. And then within both policies, both the local school wellness policy and healthy snack and beverage policy, there is accountability built in, so that parents and the communities know what's happening around wellness in the school. So each school must nominate a school wellness champion every year. This person is nominated by the principal, and with that they convene a wellness team. And we really encourage involvement of parents and community members on that wellness team. The wellness team must report quarterly, as I mentioned, to the local school council to keep the wellness conversation going within the school, and to help inform parents and involve the community in the conversation. And finally, as I mentioned, the Healthy School Certified indicator on the progress report is public, and it shows whether a school is committed to wellness. And it shows that they're taking steps towards improving their school wellness environment. So a few resources I have for all of you is there is a toolkit we put together, and Healthy Schools Campaign is graciously hosting a website for us called LearnWellCPS.org. In that toolkit, we do have recommendations for language around the fundraising and celebrations plan that's required. We also have flyers and other examples for reward well, or the healthy rewards that can be distributed to families, parents, or teachers. And there's also sample letters that can go out to parents regarding the new fundraising and celebrations plan. I would encourage all of you to invite families to help write this healthy fundraising and celebrations plan, and make sure to try to integrate health and wellness into family events and highlight what's going on at the school, and as well as making sure to invite parents to serve on the school wellness team and make sure they have a voice in what's happening around wellness at the school.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jamie, for providing that overview. So our next speaker, Michael Heidkamp from Green Elementary. Before we introduce Michael, we're going to do another quick poll question. So we want to know, how receptive do you think parents in your school are going to be to these health-promoting changes that Jamie just described? So if you could take a moment to answer that question, I'll go ahead and introduce Michael. Michael is the principal of Green Elementary. Green Elementary was awarded the Gold certification of the Healthier U.S. School Challenge for meeting the rigorous requirements around nutrition education, physical activity, and school food. He's been working alongside Green's Wellness Committee to advance a variety of health and wellness projects, including a health night, family cooking classes, aerobics classes, and after-school student programming focused on health and wellness. And he is eager and looking forward to continuing to support the Wellness Committee's ongoing leadership in developing additional programming and workshops for the upcoming school year. So before we hand it over to Michael, I will go ahead and share the results of the poll. So it looks like 3/4 of you think that parents are going to be somewhat receptive, which is a good start. And so I think what the next two presenters, Michael and Allison, are going to do is highlight some great ways to engage parents in your school and speak about initiatives that they're doing in their own schools to build excitement around changes that will support the new policies. Great. So, Michael, we will pass it over to you now.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Heidkamp, principal of Nathaniel Green. We're a pre-K through 5th grade school. We have about 620 students, and we're located on the southwest side of the city. We have a high number of students receiving free and reduced lunch. And also, we're very much a school in progress when it comes to health and wellness. It wasn't very much a consistent part of our school culture 2 years ago. It was something that we really needed to learn how to do, and we're very much still learning how to do it and do it well. Next slide, please. So there's a couple different challenges, I think, as we think about initiating or continuing to develop health and wellness at a school site. I think obviously buy-in across the spectrum, like not only just teachers and staff, but as been stated, parents and students. And I think there's a variety of different factors that get in the way of that potentially. You know, one is this idea of initiative fatigue. You know, regardless of how good and important health and wellness is, it's another thing on our plates and the plate of our community. And so we really work hard to try to integrate health and wellness into what is already happening. So if we're doing a health night, that's already integrated into report card pickup, or it's integrated into an after-school showcase. We do a lot of after-school programming with a specific eye to programming that supports and promotes health and wellness. So trying not to add, but really to integrate and enhance what's already there. Also, misunderstanding. I think that many times health and wellness can be sort of framed as taking things from children, being food Nazis, which I think can create antagonistic homeschool relationships. And I think it's really, really important to talk about health and wellness and frame it as what's gained. I think parent-to-parent conversations are incredibly important. I think being clear about expectations and then providing parents with resources to meet those expectations is critical. One example is at our beginning of year block party, we're going to have an individual doing workshops on healthy lunches. And providing our parents with a variety of different ideas and actually doing some demonstrations around how you can put together a healthy lunch for your child within a reasonable amount of time. And then also providing room for a learning curve, knowing that some parents are going to be right there with you and other parents are going to need some support. And so having that flexibility so that they're allowed the time and the resources they need and that's differentiated. for the families that are across your community. And then I think also this idea of, people get into habits. I think many times it's more of an adult issue than a child issue. I think sometimes we assume that for kids to have fun, they have to have candy or ice cream more than anything else. And I think what we're finding here is that our kids are enjoying just as much opportunities to engage in a variety of different community activities, at a birthday celebration to bring in a favorite book and read it, or to have someone from your family come in and read it, to have an opportunity to sit around in a circle and share out what you think is most special about that student, that birthday student. Those are the things that we're finding that our students really are taking as much more meaningful than just necessarily having cupcakes. So I think it's giving a variety of different examples to your parents, to your teachers, and allowing them to see kind of how you can have a much more profound impact on students when you start to rethink the way in which you recognize them and celebrate them. And then lastly, I think resources are a huge issue, not just for the school, but also for the home. The cost of living a healthy life, of finding food that's at a reasonable cost and that fits into your schedule. So I think all of these are different factors that need to be taken into consideration that we're constantly trying to work within as a school. Next slide, please. So we got started very much with parents. That was kind of our beginning point, and it was through the development of a health and wellness committee. We just had a sign up at the start of the year, and then kind of throughout the year added members. And we have parent volunteers in a variety of different roles, because as I mentioned before, we find that parents talking to parents is an incredibly powerful conversation. It also tends to be less preachy, a little bit more real. And I know that I sometimes forget how food and lifestyle choices are very intimate and they're very personal choices. So having parents talking to parents about the challenges of buying fresh food on a tight budget, of making traditional meals healthier, of finding time to make lunch rather than just grabbing chips and a Gatorade and sending your child out the door. Those are really important conversations that parents feel comfortable having with other parents. And I think there's another level of receptiveness when that happens, and that's a big role of our Health and Wellness Committee, is being that liaison, and also seeing the Health and Wellness Committee as a great way to build the capacity of your parent leaders as well. Next slide, please. So we're, like I said before, we're very much still in the process, and initially made some very kind of basic changes. One of them, and it's a story that I really like to tell, and I think that's a big part of rolling out health and wellness effectively, is developing a narrative around that and stories around that to really celebrate your community. Our health and wellness committee, we were doing ice cream socials for student of the month, and they said we should make it a smoothie social. And so within a month, we just flipped it. The Health and Wellness Committee did all the work in terms of getting the fruit. Our cafeteria manager helped as well in terms of getting the setup in the kitchen ready. And then the Health and Wellness Committee took it over. And it's been a smoothie social ever since. And the kids they love it just as much as the ice cream social. Once again, I think it was more of an adult limitation and not in assuming that ice cream was the only way in which kids would really enjoy a celebration of all that they'd accomplished. We also do adult exercise classes that bring in families during the day, so the parents are exercising in the building during the school day. We also have integrated education component with those as well. It's a great way to pull parents in and to have a captive audience. And then over breaks, we try to bring children in with their families so that we have family exercise classes over what used to be our intercessions. And we're looking at potentially doing that over the summer as well. I mentioned in after-school programming, trying to find good fits, and we do Girls on the Run, Girls in the Game. We have a world cuisine class through Common Threads. We have a morning soccer program. I mean, one of the challenges we have is just space. So we've utilized time before school. So from 7 to 8 in the morning, we have first and second graders doing morning soccer in the gym. We work with Urban Initiatives, which is a work-to-play soccer program, karate, yoga, Zumba. We have folkloric dance. So really trying to create not only engaging programs, but I think programs like folkloric dance, which also celebrate the culture of the community and act as a way of seeing how that culture, those traditions, can be integrated with health and wellness. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And then we also do a lot of work around healthy initiatives. We're trying to develop that, shifting from food to things like, toy parties, free time on doing things that kids really, really like, popcorn reading. We do faculty-student basketball games, and then students earn the right to get a ticket to those games to be able to watch them. We've had homerooms challenge each other around specific goals, and then they get to have a tug of war. Homework passes, Jeans Day. We've had tournaments where they've done Foursquare tournaments. So a variety of different things that ultimately are healthy incentives for the students, but things that they have to earn, and that also builds community as well. Next slide, please. So I think, once again, really important to be able to celebrate and recognize all the work that you're doing, even if it is just in the beginning stages. We have recess parents who work with Urban Initiatives, and a lot of our parents are recess coordinators. And so we do a lot of work with getting them front and center during a variety of different events. They teach parents activities that can be implemented in the home, the same activities that they're doing during winter recess when students are in the building in a variety of different corners and small spaces. So we want parents to really be the ones that are showcasing all of that. We also do a lot of work around like community building, and I mentioned the Foursquare tournament. That was something that came out of the recess period, and it became a great way to build community among our 4th and 5th graders. And then we actually had the Surgeon General come and visit us, and our 4th and 5th graders taught her how to play Foursquare. So a variety of different ways to really, on an ongoing basis, keep it front and center and keep it positive. I think goal setting is really important as well as a way of celebrating. It could be that we'll have a certain number of books checked out of our health and wellness library this year, or we're going to have a certain percentage of families involved in our health and wellness night, or a certain number of families signing a pledge to eat healthy, whatever, but different ways in which you can track your progress and celebrate that as a community. All right, next slide, please. So I've mentioned some of these. We have a variety of different partnerships. Obviously, Healthy Schools has been a terrific partner with us. They've really helped us develop our parent leadership piece, and so I would really encourage you to reach out to them as a resource if you're just getting started. Urban Initiatives, they have a recess coordinator that you can, as a school, that you can bring on site. And I think we really wanted to see recess as more than just an obstacle or a time that we needed to fill, and it was just all about kind of controlling kids. And we really wanted to create it as an opportunity, as a space in which kids could really explore a variety of different avenues that they weren't able to explore necessarily in the context of the classroom, including health and wellness and healthy choices. So Urban Initiatives has been a really important partner in doing recess in an intentional way here at Green. Common Thread, they do a world cuisine course in our afternoons where our 5th graders, they each week cook a recipe from a different culture around the world, and they sit down at a family style at a table and eat it and talk about the experience of it. Common Threads also does a small bites class in classrooms as well, and so we've initiated that at the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade level here. Kitchen Community, they do raised garden beds. Open Lands as well does a lot of work with gardening and developing kind of your physical space around the school and utilizing it as a way to engage kids in understanding the process of where food comes from and owning and taking much more responsibility for creating a healthy environment for themselves and for their peers. So both of them, the Kitchen Community was bringing raised beds out to a variety of different schools. Not sure if they're still necessarily doing that, but are definitely an organization to reach out to if your school is considering doing something like that. And then UIC offers a variety of different programs, health and wellness programs as well, where they'll come out to your school and they'll do a variety of different workshops for your parents. Next slide. So for us, just where we're at right now, we have a school garden, and so we're looking for a variety of different ways to integrate that into our learning here within the school, and to really not make that seem like something separate from what's happening in the classroom, but a core part of our development as both academically and in terms of physically. We're going to work on integrating physical activity into the classroom more. We're going to do a pilot program with certain teachers who self-select to do that on a daily basis. And then we're developing more resources for parents and families. One of the things we're going to try to do is with our school garden, any parent that takes something from the school garden, they have to take a picture of what they use it for at home in terms of cooking, and then we'll post the picture and the recipe online. So we're going to try to create an online green cookbook. I think we find that for a lot of our families, it's not about changing what they eat, but changing the way in which they prepare a lot of the foods that are a big part of who they are. And then also another thing that we're looking at doing is creating a lending library for our families so that they can bring books home. We'll be doing some read-alouds here at the school site, but then also want resources for parents to be able to bring and extend that conversation into the home environment as well. Next slide. So these are just some examples of different read-aloud texts. And we're working on also getting a variety of different Spanish texts as well for our Spanish-speaking parents, but just kind of a starter with regards to some of the different books that are available out there. There's one for older students, The Omnivore's Dilemma, The Secrets Behind What You Eat. There's a young reader's edition to that. The other ones are more for younger age students, probably not necessarily middle school, but The Omnivore's Dilemma could definitely be one for older students as well. Next slide. So just wanted to share with you my contact information. Always happy to open the school to anyone who would like to visit. Like I said before, we're very much learning as we go. And we're also very interested in partnering with other schools and learning from them as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate you sharing all that wonderful information. So our next speaker is Allison Slade. Before Allison goes, we're going to do one last poll question of the audience. We want to know, what area would you like to address in your school wellness environment? So take a moment to answer that question, and I will introduce Allison. Allison is the founder and principal at Namaste Charter School, a charter school on the southwest side of Chicago, which serves mainly low-income minority students in a holistic environment designed to put health and wellness education alongside academic instruction for lifelong student and family success. Allison obtained her bachelor's degree from Washington University and has a master's in education from University of Chicago's Harris School. So we will go ahead and close the poll and share the results. It looks like most people are interested in finding ways to incorporate more physical activity into the school day, and then also learning how to establish an active wellness team. So we might be able to speak a little bit more about the wellness team during the question and answer session. And I think Allison will speak to some of the other points. So we will now turn it over to Allison.
Great. Thank you so much. So in response to that last question, of course this is not on my slide, I do this all the time. If you've been sitting down like me for the past 45 minutes listening to these people speak, you should stand up, put your arms like a football goalpost. Who's really excited about football season? Put your arms like a goalpost and just twist your waist. We're going to take a little physical activity break. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now keep your hands like that goalpost and press them down towards your knees while marching. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lift your knees higher. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then just take a big stretch up and over to your right and up and over to your left. Okay, we are ready to go. I am really going to focus on talking about a couple of key ways that Namaste over the past 10 years has engaged families in a successful way in its health and wellness programming. So that is what we're going to do over the next couple of minutes. Next slide. Rosa at the beginning talked a lot about the importance of family engagement. You can go to the next slide. And she talked a lot about all of the research behind this, but especially for teachers on the line, if you have a hard time convincing people about why this is important, especially in sort of our test-driven society around Common Core, you can use some of these points, and I put a site at the bottom of it to use research to talk about how kids who are healthy and active do perform better in the classroom. Next slide. Some of the ways that we have engaged families at Namaste are unique and have enabled us to sort of take our message a little bit further than what we do in the classroom. So these are specific initiatives listed here that I'm going to talk a little bit about today, and happy to share any additional information if you're interested in starting one of these events or activities in your school. Next slide. One of the sort of cornerstones of Namaste is our Friday Family Breakfast program. Since we opened 10 years ago, we have operated this program, and we have tweaked it every year based on sort of our growing and changing population. So what we do is every single Friday we open our breakfast program to the families. And because we got kind of big and we have a relatively small cafeteria, we focus each Friday on one grade level. So for example, the first Friday will be the kindergarten family breakfast. Kindergarten families can come with students to breakfast from 7:45 to 8:30, eat exactly what the kids are eating, receive recipes, and have breakfast with their children. It gives a really great opportunity for teachers to meet families and talk to them in a non-threatening setting, and sort of model what we do during family mealtime. Lots of times after these breakfasts, we'll have a workshop for families on something related to health and wellness, but it's really a non-threatening way to get families in the school and participating with their students in eating a healthy breakfast, which we all know is very important. Next slide. A second thing that we've been doing Friday Family Breakfast for 10 years, but something we started last year was operating a health fair. We do it on a Saturday in the fall, and we partner with everything possible that's free. And there's a lot. You can see in this picture, Walgreens came and gave away a ton of stuff, and also did a lot of testing of our families. They did, blood pressure screening, and they had their pharmacists on site to help families access additional medical care. During this session, we also had, yoga classes and other fitness classes. We had a healthy cooking demonstration where families made fruit and yogurt parfaits and learned about the ways to do that in a healthy way, and several other things. It was really successful and, enabled our families to take part in a healthy activity on Saturdays. Next slide. Another thing is really, building on what Michael said, addressing the needs of parents with other parents. So we partner with an organization called C4 to offer a parenting skills workshop. Each year we do it to a different level of students. So there's a 0 to 7 class, a 7 to 12 class, and a 12 to 13 class. And what it does is it forms a community of parents that are learning together, but also have each other as sort of sounding boards and a community to come together after the class, after they learn their parenting skills. And you can see our families getting their little awards there in the picture. We do one in Spanish and then one in English, so things are not being concurrently translated, but families really get to meet other families that speak their language and that they can sort of get ideas from and potentially commiserate with when they're having challenges with their children. Next slide. Commit to be Fit is a parent exercise class that we started a couple of years ago. We partner with the YMCA, now our family liaison teaches those classes, and again, those families use our fitness center, and they come to school, much like Michael talked about at Green, using our fitness center and learning the activities that their children learn in PE class in an exercise class. Next slide. In response to what someone wanted on the poll, we do have a school health advisory committee. It's called SHAC. And it's a committee that's run by 2 volunteer teachers and a parent. And their real focus is taking Namaste's wellness policy and putting it into action. And I think this could definitely be a challenge that, Chicago Public School teachers and staff have, is that, the wellness policy is really big. And breaking it up and having some champions around individual portions of the policy could really help and make it more manageable for schools. And what they do is they create goals each year, and they take part of the policy and educate our families on what it means to be healthy and what it means to be at Namaste. Next slide. Also sort of building out what Michael talked about with healthy celebrations. One of my favorite days of the year, we offer 2 farmers markets during the year where we work with our produce vendor, and they have extremely cheap produce where families come, but also kids can go during lunch and recess to buy produce. And you've never seen kids so happy to eat like an entire basket of strawberries in your whole life. And it's incredibly gratifying to see how excited they are about buying those and eating those. And then similar to what Michael spoke about as well, sometimes we'll have a competition within classrooms to buy food at the farmer's market and then take pictures of what your family cooked with it at home and hold a competition at school related to that. Next slide. In addition to these physical things that we do and activities, we do have a weekly newsletter that goes home, and it has a small corner in it that's not about the health and wellness activities that we're doing at the school, but rather it has a health or wellness fact for families reading it. We share facts about everything, physical and mental health, things about sleep, all of these different important facts that families need to know in a non-threatening way. Next slide. Things we've learned from these examples of successful events. Advertising is really important, making sure that you talk to families in lots of different ways. Posters in your lobby, flyers home, email, getting the kids involved, so giving, incentives for having the most children attend an event, etc. Time, really finding all different times when these things can occur, so before school, during school, after school, weekends is really important, and really doing them all the time. In one trimester of instruction, which has like about 60 days in it, we'll have 50 or more events, and those could be really small, have 2 or 3 families at some, and those could be really big, having 200 families at others. And then Michael talked quite eloquently about partnerships. We have lots of partnerships because obviously this work cannot be done alone, and you cannot be an expert on everything related to health and wellness. So it's really important that you investigate your community, and I'm sure Healthy Schools Campaign and Michael and myself would be happy to connect you with our current partners as well. Next slide. Another important thing in continuing to make these events better is to continue to evaluate them. We do like an interest survey at the beginning of our year where families can respond and tell us what they want to learn about that year, so that we can try to tailor events to those interests and not do the same things over and over again. And of course, it's a relatively delicate balance, just given that there are new families every year that, might not have had access to things that you offered the year before. Make sure that you do an exit slip of some sort, or documenting of who was at every single event and what they took away from it is really important. And then obviously our participation in the CCSR survey, the disaggregating that data also helps us to continue to have different kinds of programming that meet our students and families' needs. Next slide. So just like Michael, I'm going to give you my contact information via email as well. We do have several opportunities to visit the school in addition to on your own time. We do offer what we call Learning the Namaste Way, which is a 2.5-day institute here at Namaste, where teachers or school leaders have the opportunity to basically run wild in the school, visit classrooms, listen to teachers, talk to other teachers about how they implement health and wellness initiatives in their classrooms, and do some action planning as individuals. So we are doing that twice this year. We have some dates picked out in October, at the end of October, and then at the end of June. If you're interested, you should definitely visit our website and apply online. We'd love to see some of you there. And if you just have other questions, you're welcome to contact me at any time. Thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Great. Thank you so much, Allison, for that wonderful presentation. We are going to go ahead and jump right into question and answer, since we have had a number of questions come in and we want to do our best to get to them. So to start off, Jamie, this is probably a question for you. Where can we read or find the full CPS healthy snack and beverage policy?
Yeah, so it is online. If you go to learnwellcps.org, it is in our toolkit in the appendix. It's also on the CPS website. If you Google the local school wellness policy, Chicago Public Schools, you should be able to find it. But I could provide the actual direct link to that if you guys want to email it out.
That would be great, Jamie. What we'll do is in the follow-up email that goes out with a link to the recording of this webinar, we'll include that link as well, so everybody can go ahead and access it. So another question, and I think everybody could probably weigh in on this, but both Michael and Allison did a wonderful job highlighting their work with partners in the community, and people want to know how they can connect with those community partners. So maybe Jamie, if you could speak to if there's a central place within the CPS website that they could look up that information, and then Allison and Michael, maybe you could speak to how you were able to connect with partners.
Yeah, so we have a new list of food and fitness partners that have been vetted through our department. There's about a list of about 50 different partners that provide direct services to schools that we will be distributing this school year. So it will be on that website at learnwellcps.org.
Great, thank you. And Michael, could you maybe speak to how you were able to connect with partners in the community?
Sure. I think a lot of partners are interconnected here in Chicago, and so I think one of the big steps was starting a learning garden, and then from that we ended up getting put in touch with a variety of different organizations. So starting with Open Lands, then the Kitchen Community, and then Common Threads. So I think that was a real big step for us in terms of gaining access to a wide range of different organizations here in the city.
Great, thank you. And Allison, could you maybe add your input?
Sure. I would just say, ask. Think about your community and what are the assets or resources in your community, and reach out to them. It doesn't necessarily have to be like an organization that already does this, like the YMCA or like UIC. You can reach out to businesses in your area, families that work for an organization that might be like-minded and might want to donate something. But it's pretty hard to argue with wanting to make our kids and families healthier. And so in that way, you have sort of a built-in, everyone really wants to, contribute to that mission. And so I think the best thing you can do is just ask your local park district, if you have a YMCA or any kind of fitness center near you, food places. So we have like Cermak Produce near here. Any organization that you think might be able to help you do anything. You just connect to them for something really little, and then you can continue to connect to them as they learn more about your school.
Great, thank you so much. We have another question. This is a great question, and I think Michael and Allison, I'm hoping you'll be able to answer it. So someone is going to be hosting a wellness week at their school they're going to have third grade pedometer activities, a fair day with yoga, hand washing activities, smoothies, etc. And they want to know if there's an easy or cheap way to measure the culture and health knowledge before they have this health fair, and then after the health fair determine if it's had an impact on people's knowledge. So I don't know if either of you have ever tried to kind of measure health knowledge within your community and seen if it's been impacted by activities that you've implemented. Is that something? Have either of you been able to do that?
Sure. This is Allison. I think it depends on if you're talking about change in knowledge with students or families, first of all, and then what level of students. There's another great way to integrate partnerships if you have a university near you. We have a 10-question survey that we use even with kindergartners where they hold up a happy face or a sad face about if a food is healthy. I know Hearts in Parks, you could Google that, has a survey even for the littlest kids. And you could do that before and after the fair. I think it's pretty hard to measure big changes from one event, so I would really encourage you to, try to measure change over a longer period of time, like a trimester or a semester or a year, and offer multiple events that address different parts of wellness that you're trying to measure change in.
Great. Thank you, Allison. That's a wonderful response. Another question we've had come in is, what are some of the best practices to starting a community garden? So I am actually going to ask Rosa to answer this one, I think.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I think gardens are a very appealing thing to bring to your school community. And in Chicago, we're blessed to have a variety of organizations that provide support and planning advice on how to get started on that. I would actually Chicago Public Schools has a school garden coordinator now that I'm sure would be a great resource to kind of navigate through all these different resources. So we can definitely, Jamie, if you're okay with this, we can share the school garden coordinator's contact information. And also there's school garden organizations on that food and fitness partner list that Jamie was referencing to. But I think just one to share at the moment, that does a spectacular job is Open Lands, not-for-profit organization. They really come into your school and really help you create a garden team to really establish and think through the different responsibilities that the school will have to do to take care of the garden, especially since our growing season is when school is out. But more to come on that. We're actually going to be hosting a webinar on that in sometime in the fall, so stay tuned.
Great, thank you, Rosa. So we're going to have one more question. I know we've gone about 5 minutes over, and so this will be the last question. Michael and Allison, would either of you be able to speak about some of the first steps that you took to setting up a wellness committee?
Sure. We just reached out to our parents, and it just started at the very beginning of the year at our start of year block party, and we had about, I want to say we started with around 2 parents. And I think also there's sometimes this misperception that you need this sort of critical mass of people to have a committee and to get started. And I think sometimes getting started with a smaller group is actually more effective and then building out. And so we started with just 2 really committed parents. We did some very grabbed some very low-hanging fruit around different resources. Like we knew that parents wanted an exercise class, so we brought that in and really became kind of a resource to the community initially. And then over time, folded more and more people in and started to really push on the education side more. So it really started small, started with a core group of really committed people, and then built out from there.
Great. Thank you so much. So I think with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us on our webinar. Rosa mentioned earlier we are hosting another webinar next Wednesday on the ABCs of school wellness policies and the role of parents. So if you're able to join us for that, we hope you can and would love to have you. And thank you once again to all of our presenters, Rosa, Jamie, Michael, and Allison. We really appreciate you all taking the time to join us today. So we hope everybody enjoys the rest of your day, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.